Cheick's watch, Cheick's calendar, methinks it's pizza sometime. That's right, after 4 years and 9 episodes of the Fixing FNAF Plushie series, we're finally creeping up on the end of the classic FNAF era, which is insane. This one is going to be quite the doozy too. Pizza Sim has the largest number of new characters to plushify by far, a hefty 25. In fact, since Ultimate Custom Night has only 2 newbies, I figured I might as well just go ahead and combine both games into one big Cawthon era ending shebang, bringing the number to 27. Since 27 is of course quite a bit of plushies to design in 1 or 2 videos, this will unfortunately have to be split up into our first 3-parter. Listen, I would just make this one big ol' hour-long video if I could, but my upload schedule is bad as is, alright? Can't afford to go missing for a whole 3 or 4 months. But Tully, according to my calculations, there are actually a good amount more than just 27 new characters between these 2 games. Well, if it isn't the Brainiac, my hilarious side character played by myself who's been in my videos for years and years, becoming a beloved mainstay on the channel, you are technically correct. However, let me explain. I mentioned this in the first episode, but I'm only going to be covering characters that are classified as animatronics in the series, meaning none of those weird side things in Pizzeria Sim, like Fruit Punch Clown or Egg Baby or whatever. Yes, that does mean the Trash Gang are fair game. That'll be interesting. I will, however, be making an exception for Security Puppet and Candy Cadet, as they are both a lot more relevant to the story, both already have Funko plushies, and fuck you, it's my channel. As far as ECN goes, the only ones I'm doing are Dee Dee and Zor, no Foam Guy or Old Man Consequences, as they're not really animatronics and I just don't want to do them. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to explain that, Brainiac. You're quite the handful, but at the end of the day, you are a part of the family. I have some equations to go solve. Gadzooks, brain on! What a character. Right now, though, I say we tackle a nice third of that plushy pizza pie. Let's just dive right in. Wait! Everyone stop! I have some news. Okay, I'm realizing I may have made this sound more serious than it actually is. It's socks. I have socks. That's right. The channel now has its very own stylish line of Bizabizow Socks. Have you ever wanted my video background on your feet? Perhaps the same thing, but with like the flag colors of some country, I think. You want this guy too? You do? Hey, so have you like ever thought about seeing a therapist? Well, that's all great, because these 3 pairs of socks are now available at thesockdesigner.com. These aren't just some dinky, cheap print-on pattern socks, by the way. These patterns are entirely stitched in super high quality. And comfy, too. I made sure of that. If you want to pick these up, you gotta do so quick, because these are only available until Halloween. Head to thesockdesigner.com/product/bizabizow-socks to pick up your pack of socks. Link in the description. Okay, back to the video. So, those Funko Pizzeria Sim plushies, eh? They're actually really good. I have no idea what happened between the sister location waves and the FNAF 6 waves, but wow, they finally locked in. Like, just look at these 2 side by side. The sudden leap in quality is insane. Someone at Funko must have been visited by 3 ghosts at some point. Yep. Joke I made for the first time. Just now. Don't get me wrong, these things aren't perfect by any means. I think my main issue I have with them is the lack of stylistic cohesion between these and the originals. The new flatter summon eyes with the arch shapes do look very cute and appealing, however, they look a tad strange next to the old ones with the bulging spherical eyes. I just think they could have kept to the format a bit closer. They were miles away from the mark with Candy Cadet, though. Jesus Christ. Put that grub back in the grime-encrusted bottom of the garbage bin where it belongs. So this time around, it's going to be less so fixing these plushies and more so showing you my take on them based on the design style I've used thus far. And, you know, adding in the 13 other Pizza Sim characters that were left behind, as per usual. So, who should we start with? Well, this is the first part, so we don't want to start off too exciting, now do we? How about some characters that are a little more, you know, middle of the road? Perhaps a bit mediocre?
Turn that shit off. The melody's so mediocre.
I'm starting with Orville specifically only because he's the one Pizzeria sim plush I happen to own. I don't even remember why I have him. I'm not like a massive Orville head or anything. He's just kind of here. This plush is fairly decent. It's pretty cute and has no glaring issues. It's just kind of what I'd expect a Funko Orville plush to look like. If I was to give some nitpicks, aside from what I already discussed about the wave, they did just kind of make a generic looking elephant here. Nothing about this really screams Orville, aside from the color scheme and the accessories. Without those, this would just look like some elephant guy. I think they needed to shape his head more like him. Maybe make this trunk larger, although the little cashew shape is pretty cute, I can't lie. We won't have to worry though, because for our new version, I'll be going off the model's face shape anyway. How about we take a look at the little guy, huh? There he is. So I tried my best to capture the facial proportions a bit better than Funko did, with the smaller cheeks, bigger eyes, and small jaw. He also just has a less puffy face in general. Funko's kind of suffered a bit from that. As for the, yeah, don't worry, he has a trunk. I just wanted to freak you out. As for the trunk, it's a very similar shape, just scaled up and with this little nostril end part on it, like the model has. This is just a plush circle with a stitched darker circle in the center to look like the opening of a hose. Writing this reminded me of Elephant. Do y'all remember that? I used to have that as a kid. As you can see, I gave Orville an open mouth. I decided to go ahead and do this for all the mediocre melodies as a way to represent their cheap, goofy quality. Also, just to add some nice variety to the character groupings. There's a lot of them in this game. As for his wonderful fashion accessories, he has his elongated hat just like the model. Funko didn't even try to represent that detail for some reason. And his little purple flower. I imagine these petals having a slicker, silky material, kind of like my Ugly Abominations tie here. I don't know what this material is called, but it would look... Ah! He bit me! That's all there really is to him, though. There you go. Orville the elephant. So, like, what's the deal with Orville being put in a separate catalog from the other melodies? And, like, why is he so much more expensive? Does he have, like, crazy features that the others don't have or something? What are they? At that price, that thing better be doing my taxes or something.
Freddie! I found the free gift! It's a crappy Mr. Hippo fridge magnet? Lame.
You listen here, you little shit. Mr. Hippo is a goddamn treasure.
Hey,
He's a
whoa.
gift of fucking fast kind, you hear
Whoa,
me? If
Freddie.
I hear anything like that spill out of your
Buddy,
goddamn mouth
buddy,
again,
hey.
I am not your buddy.
Hey.
You think you could just talk shit?
Mr. Hippo's Funko plush is also pretty decent. Honestly, a little better than Orville's, I'd say. He has a very simple design, so that would be fairly difficult to mess up anyway. The only small nitpick I really have for this one is that they didn't at all attempt the donut ears. I get why, just using the same ears they've used thus far probably makes things a lot simpler, but according to my plushie making friend Sock, it maybe wouldn't have been that difficult to do. Once more, I have no actual plush making knowledge, so I'm just gonna take their word for it. Go follow Thimble's thread, by the way. They make really good plushies. Let's just go ahead and take a look at my design. So I take back what I said earlier. This guy's simplicity is actually a little deceptive. This one took a lot more effort to get right, weirdly. I think something about a character's face being simpler actually requires more attention put into the plush proportions being perfect in order to resemble it properly. Or maybe I'm just bad, I don't know. Regardless, I was able to get it in the end. He's got all the makings of a Mr. Hippo. His donut ears, holes and all, his nostrils with little stitched darker parts, and of course, his flower. It's exactly the same as Orville's, just in a different color. Matching flowers, you know, like friends have. They're besties. Real pals, you know? Very close friends.
My good friend Orville. One of my good friends Orville. My good friend Orville. My friend Orville. Wedged in the air duct with Orville.
And with that, he's done. On to the next fruity colored friend.
And Orville, he stood and proceeded to drape me with a picnic cloth.
This is how it feels, and you get to experience it over and over. and over again.
Although I understand that there's very little demand for Nedd Bear of all characters, it's still a little surprising Funko didn't give him a plush, given the fact that he would have made an incredibly easy Freddy recolor. I'm glad they didn't because that would have sucked, but that would have been the classic Funko move. Took restraint on their part. For our Nedd Bear plush, I think it makes the most sense to start with our withered Freddy and work off from there, since these two characters have very similar head shapes. They are different enough to warrant some structural changes though, as you'll see. So, here's Nedd Bear. Putting him next to my withered Freddy, you can see how I altered the proportions and shape. Nedd Bear's snout is wider and has kind of an arc to it. His jaw is a lot larger compared to the rest of his head, and his cheeks are more upturned this time, which captures his head shape quite well, I think. For his eyes, I made sure to give him his iconic, hypertropia. Wow, I didn't know there was a name for that. That's interesting. As well as this one droopy black eyelid, all just like the model has. We can't have an Andiematronic without some drip, though. I topped it all off with his spiffy plaid necktie, and most iconic of all, his springy hat thing. In order to figure out how this would work on a plush, I looked to see if there were any mass-produced plushies that incorporated a spring in their design somehow. I wasn't really able to find much until I came across the official Boxy plush of all things. Listen, I'm not happy I had to use Poppy Playtime merch as reference either.
Evil Boxy.
For these springy arms he's got, it looks like they used metal or plastic springs covered in felt, and in order to give them a little more structure while making sure the springs had limit to their stretchability, they added this elastic scrunchy part down the center, connecting the hand and the body, which is smart. For Nedd Bear, I decided to use a similar method. The short red plush hat is connected to the top of the head by a felt-covered spring. But in order to keep the hat upright, we need a little more structure than the elastic scrunchie. Since we didn't need it to be bendy or stretchy like Boxy anyway, I instead opted for a stable plush cylinder part running down the center. That way it keeps the hat firmly upright while still giving the illusion that it's just the spring, which I think looks perfect. With all that combined, we have ourselves a solid Nedd Bear plush. I went into this not giving much of a shit about this character because, you know, it's Nedd Bear, but now I kind of want this plush to be real. I really like the springy hat for some reason.
It appears we have a pig in our patch.
Pigpatch is interesting to me because he's like the only mediocre melody that actually looks a smidge unsettling. I'm assuming that's why he was chosen for Help Wanted too, because like, can you really imagine any of the others being at all intimidating in this scenario? Not Mr. Hippo, that's for sure. Oh, yeah, his pronouns are she, her. Pigpatch's plushie is definitely my least favorite of the melodies they adopted. Something about his eyes and shape just look off. I really like this image I found where he looks like he's trying to give you puppy dog eyes. Dude, you're not getting another treat. You had like 5 today. I think the fact that his 2 big doofy orc teeth aren't visible also doesn't help since they are a pretty important aspect of his design to neglect. At the very least, they could have just stuck some on coming out of the seam here, but ours is gonna have an open mouth anyway, so who cares? Hey, wow, speak of the devil. For mine, I made sure to get his head shape correct, with the chubbier cheeks, the dip in the top of his head, and the correctly sized jaw, which, now that it's open, displays his 2 little teeths quite well. For his eyes, I of course included his, heterophobia. And since he has these brown-colored parts of his legs, we get to bring back the world-famous plushy pants. It's been a while, old friend. These ones, though, have a hole in the back to make room for his little adorable plush curly tail. On Funkos, they copped out and just made it a flat-stitched line. Lame. That, however, is all there is to Pigpatch. Similar to Nedd Bear, I feel like I've gained more appreciation for this character through making this plush. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said for our last melody.
Turn your back for 1 second and I'm like, wazoo! Ninja skills! Ready, Fazzer?
Stop.
Happy
You're
Frost is
embarrassing
the new
us.
star of the show.
Please, stop it right now. Promise you'll never do that again.
Alright.
Ew. Okay, I'm sorry, I hate this thing. Happy Frog's design sticks out like a sore thumb amongst the others to me. Like, what was Scott cooking here? I can't explain why, but if a Newgrounds animator made an animation called Barney Gets Shot in 2006, this is how I imagine they'd draw him. I don't know if that made sense to anyone, but it did to me. Although this thing is ugly in my opinion, I'm actually very impressed with how cute Funko made its plush. I think she looks pretty adorable here. Shout out to this Macari listing that has the most elegantly taken photos of a FNAF plush I've ever seen. Love to see a girl thriving out in nature like that. The world is so beautiful. As cute as it is though, it's not in our plushie style, and little annoying details like this flat piece of felt glued to this stick acting as the ball thing makes me want to take a crack at it myself. And I will, because that's what this video is for. Crack! Once more, I attempted to capture the specific shape of Happy Frog here with her squashed down looking head and her thin and long bean-shaped snout part. I don't think it's called a snout for a frog, but whatever. Her large open jaw is here now, of course, with a row of buck teeth on the top and bottom. For the eyes, I obviously couldn't give her these horrifying dark cavernous eye holes, so much like her mangle, I used the eye rings to sort of imitate that in a more appealing way. If anything, it just makes her look even happier. This dangly ball thing sticking out from the top of her head is now an actual plush ball too, held up by this stick. And most important of all, she has pants too. Can't believe we got to do that twice in a row. With Happy Frog done, we have now completed all the mediocre melodies. Sit down, sit down. The video isn't done yet. We have some stragglers to take care of in no particular order. Helpy is a character that's just made to be a plush. Like, look at him. Thankfully, Funko's take on him did not disappoint. In fact, I think this might be the best one of the wave. They did a great job with him. A+ guy right here. Give him some candy. He deserves it. You're not a... But, as always, I'm allowed a little bitching. Just a smidge. For some reason, they gave him the same dog nose that Funko Foxy had. Helpy doesn't have nostrils like Foxy does, so not sure why they did this. They definitely had a regular nose and this size, so I don't know. Funko vexes me yet again. Also, I think he'd look better without the eyelids. He's a wide-eyed lad. Aside from that, I think this is a really solid Helpy. However, when there's improvements of any kind to be made, no matter how small, I'm there. Here. I'm here. Bam! Helpy. This one's pretty straightforward, not much to talk about. We didn't really have to simplify his face at all. It's a pretty direct translation from his model. No need when he's already perfectly plush proportioned. Couple things to note though, instead of Funko's closed mouth, I instead opted for his open mouth smiley expression for this plush. He hits that face a lot in Pizzeria some, so I thought it would look really cute. Also, I have a surprise for you. You ready? He has his little removable glasses, like he has in the lawsuit animation. Ain't that just precious? I actually got this idea from the official Delter and Ralsei plush. He has these tiny metal glasses that you can take off and on. They even fit perfectly on my Sainty Freddy, meaning the size would be perfect. These ones, though, are a lot thicker, so they'd probably have to be made out of plastic. These sophisticated, realistic ones with hinges and all are really high quality, but I think these only work because they're thin wire frames. Metal glasses this thick would be a lot heavier and not really necessary. Plastic rigid frames would work just fine. But yeah, there you go. A Helpy plush that you can make as nerdy as you like. According to my calculations, this fellow has an exquisite taste in fashion. Oh, Brainiac. I kinda don't know why El Chip of all characters was chosen to get a plush this wave. I think one of the left out rock stars or even Scrap Baby would have been better choices, but oh well. I guess it is kind of poetic that a Chipper reference got a plush in the end, though. This one is once more a pretty decent plush. I think they could have done a better job at matching his head shape, and this sombrero is pretty cheap looking, I'm not gonna lie, but besides that, he looks fine. I did find this photo of one with really fucked up eyes, though. I'm assuming that's just a factory outlier, although maybe it's a bootleg or something, I don't know. Okay, well, that one definitely is. We'll make sure to give ours a more accurate head shape and make that sombrero higher quality. I think a thicker plush brim like our other hats would make perfect sense here, although maybe a smidge thinner so it's not super rigid. Sombrero brims have some curve to them that we'll want to maintain. So here's El Chip, our first closed mouth plush of the video. His face is pretty straightforward, you can probably parse all the changes I made. Most of the work went into the sombrero here though, that was the tricky part. I tried my best to make it look curved in a similar way to the model, but also feasible for a plush. The triangle pattern on the brim here would most likely have to be printed on. I don't think stitching like 30 tiny triangles into the fabric would work that well. I usually try to avoid printed fabric, as you know, but sometimes it is kinda necessary, especially for tiny details like this. These little dangly ball things, though, are entirely physical. They're just little puff balls stuck to the rim. This makes the sombrero very cluttered with detail, especially compared to the rest of him, but I think that's kind of the point with this hat. It was like that on the original model anyway. With all that combined, we have... oh, he has a beaver tail too, we forgot to mention that. With all that combined, we have a great little L-Chip plush here. Welcome home, Chipper. Welcome home. We have one more character for today, and I'm curious to see if you can guess who it is. Pause the video and comment down below it's Candy Cadet. Sorry, I got impatient.
Now I will tell you a story about a young woman who was gay. In the room was a woman, and she was told that she was gay. Desperate to find a way to not be gay, she fled the building. She found the man, and kissed him. Of course, it did not work that way. She was still gay.
Candy Cadet is easily the worst plush of this wave. It is a putrid little thing. Not only is the entire thing printed material, it also has this weird shiny metallic looking texture to it. I'm not sure if that effect comes from the base fabric itself or the ink that was used, but whatever it was, it is not appealing in the slightest. We get it. He's a robot. You don't need to make him shiny. Even ignoring that detail, these flat cutout felt parts are cheap and lazy as all hell. Like, the antenna, sure, but the arms too? Come on. Not to mention he's shaped like a fucking dookie. I'm not gonna lie, I think Candy Cadet as a design is kinda ugly anyway. This is the most clip art robot I've ever seen in my life. I guess that might have been the point since he's just a generic candy dispensing machine in a cheap pizzeria, so I'm not gonna go too hard on it. However, he is definitely not a FNAF character I'd choose for a plush. I am going to redesign him though in a stubborn attempt to prove I can do something a little better than Funko did. So here's my Candy Cadet. Designed out of pure spite and hatred. The biggest part I wanted to get right here was the body shape. I, of course, wanted it to resemble the model, but still be simplified without it looking like this. All of my plushies so far, the ones that stand up at least, follow this rough shape with a large head, medium body, and small but chunky limbs. So I applied the same to Candy Cadet. He has a larger head and smaller chest part, the exact opposite of the original model, with chunky tires kind of acting as feet, and stubby arms similar to our puppets. These ones have stitch lines to resemble the model's zigzaggy arms and some little robot hand things on the ends. For the whole design, I turned down the detail density considerably from the original model by not including unimportant details, as you're supposed to do when converting a design to a cute plush. Funko definitely did not do this, instead opting to carry over almost every single tiny line or circle, which did not help with the whole machinery vomit look he's got going on here. Speaking of detail, everything on my design is done with stitching or separate pieces of fabric, which not only fixes the gross cheap print look, but also adds a little more depth with raised portions like this visor part, these button things, and the candy dispenser tray right here. With all that, we have an ugly plush that at least looks a little better than the other uglier plush, meaning I've succeeded in my goal. Sadly, this won't be the last we'll see of Candy Cadet. I'll be dreading his return. But that's all I have for you this video. Next time, we'll take on another portion of Pizzeria Sim plushies. I'm gonna say the thing, by the way. Are you ready? Subscribe so you don't miss it. As always, do let me know what you thought of each of these designs. I actually do read a lot of the input you guys give. Some of the mistakes I've caught and fixed in the past were pointed out to me by commenters. I genuinely do appreciate it. And, nice comments are good too. Until next time, I'll be hard at work on some plushies for ya. Take care. According to my calculations, she'll actually be gaming most of the time. Brainiac. Just what am I gonna do with you? Oh my god, Brainiac, no! And I'd like to thank my Skrunklies over on Patreon. Thank you for supporting me. Prism, April B, Creative JK, Adelaide Parade, Maylin, Chico Mode, Pew Oliver, Fred Shroom, Blargensnorf, Siderian, Xenodude Face, Dominic, Sled Masters, The Papini Bros Emporium, Jurgen the Bull, Juliet with a Handgun, Kongman, JubeTube, Bubblegum Bitch, Secret QWERTY 10, Derpity Doo, MEB, Wow Wow Till It's Websy, Beta Afro, Samwa the ShamWow, Cracked Vinyl, Soxy Fee, Null, Indigo, Punbum, Christophine Place, Mixed Media, Skillimalink, Your Local Puppy Girl, Ori, Medjed, Lopmon, Chimera Triplet, Yak Gak 5000, LeGrant Stanley, Zine Original, June of Hammers, Leslie N, BioBugs, Ballbasher 69, Odd Knocked, Lewis Antifighter, Niall Price, A Swarm of Birds, OBS Cerberus, Ethel, Llama Cat, Amber Rain, Tim Stoker, Airy Crafty, Superbred T, Isaiah Mendoza, Autobot Dan, Alex Richardson, Minnie May, Jelly Bomb, Hex Kitty, Ego Kaskowitz, Tershi, Snake Fighter 64, The Gold Hair, Atticus Cox, Michael, Cassie Pult, Juicy Lucy, Foolish Bard, Sky the Guy 2.0, Grexius, Plubcole, Foxy, Chip Tooney, Souls Days, Vin, Slothy, Squirt Buckley, Acute Leah, Soap Bubble, and Dr. Nivag. If you'd like to join these wonderful folks, you can check out my Patreon in the link in the description. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and peace out.